The cardboard box sat in Margaret Sullivan's bedroom corner, untouched for 3 years. Inside were 847 photographs. 30 years of children who had sat in her classroom, learned her lessons, then walked out forever. Margaret was 72, living alone in suburban Chicago on a pension that barely covered rent. She hadn't opened that box in months. What was the point? Those children were adults now. They'd forgotten her. But Ellen DeGeneres was about to prove that some teachers are never forgotten. Margaret Sullivan taught 3rd grade at Lincoln Elementary from 1985 to 2015. Not the wealthy kids or gifted ones. She taught forgotten children. The ones from broken homes who came to school hungry, who needed someone to believe in them when nobody else did. Every year on the last day, Margaret took a class photo. She'd gather students on the carpet, squeeze in beside them, set the timer. Then she'd print it, write each name on the back, and store it in her box. By retirement, 847 faces. Margaret never married. Her students were her children. She attended their games, plays, graduations. She bought supplies with her own money. She stayed late tutoring kids who were falling behind. She saw potential in children the system had written off. Retirement was brutal. A small party, grocery store cake, generic card. Her students didn't know she was leaving. The loneliness crushed her. 30 years of children, laughter, purpose. Now silence. Just another elderly woman nobody noticed. One evening, Margaret pulled out the photographs, spread them across her floor. 847 faces. She remembered every name. Marcus with bruises who learned to read anyway. Sophia who spoke no English in September, reading chapter books by June. David labeled unteachable until Margaret discovered his dyslexia. Where were they now? She'd never know. That unknowing broke her heart. What Margaret didn't know was that one child never forgot her. Jennifer Rodriguez had been in Mrs. Sullivan's 1997 class, a shy 8-year-old whose parents were divorcing. School was her safe place. Mrs. Sullivan made her feel like she mattered. Jennifer was 30 now, a Los Angeles social worker helping children in crisis, inspired by the teacher who helped her. Until one day she saw a Chicago community group post. Does anyone remember Mrs. Sullivan from Lincoln Elementary? Trying to find her to say thank you. The post exploded. Dozens responding. She changed my life. I've been looking for her. She's why I became a teacher. Jennifer started a private group. 2 weeks later, 73 of Mrs. Sullivan's former students found, all wanting to thank the teacher who saved them. But tracking Margaret's contact revealed something heartbreaking. Alone, struggling financially, convinced nobody remembered her. Jennifer emailed the Ellen DeGeneres show. We found our teacher. She thinks we forgot her. 73 of us have been searching. Can you help show her she was never forgotten? 2 weeks later, Margaret got a call. Mrs. Sullivan, this is Rachel from Ellen. Ellen wants you as a guest. We're doing a segment about retired teachers. Margaret almost refused, but a free LA trip beat another lonely evening. Taping day, Margaret wore her navy church dress. She felt out of place in the bright studio. Everyone so young, vibrant. She was just an old, forgotten teacher. Ellen danced out to applause. Margaret sat 3rd row, trying to smile. Then Ellen said something that stopped Margaret's heart. We have someone special in our audience. Margaret Sullivan taught 3rd grade in Chicago for 30 years. Camera found Margaret. She froze. Mrs. Sullivan, come up here, please. Margaret's legs barely worked walking to stage. Ellen met her halfway, taking her hand gently. Mrs. Sullivan. Ellen's voice thick with emotion. Do you know why you're really here? Margaret shook her head. Because 73 of your former students have been searching for you, for years, trying to find the teacher who changed their lives. Margaret's eyes filled. They remember me? They never forgot you. The curtain opened. Margaret saw something that shattered her completely. 73 people walked onto that stage. Men and women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, former students from 3 decades. They'd flown from across the country. Doctors, teachers, social workers, parents, all there to thank Mrs. Sullivan. Margaret couldn't breathe. She recognized faces, older but familiar. Marcus, now a lawyer. Sophia, a bilingual teacher. David, a professor. Jennifer, who started it all. One by one, they approached the microphone. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm Marcus. Your class, 1992. You taught me my circumstances didn't define my future. I'm a civil rights attorney because you showed me justice matters. Sophia, 1998. You spent lunch breaks teaching me English. I'm a teacher now because of you. David, 2001. Everyone said I was stupid. You said I was brilliant, just different. I have a PhD now studying learning disabilities so other kids don't struggle like I did. 73 testimonies. 73 lives changed. 73 people who never forgot. Margaret sobbed, body-shaking sobs of someone who'd carried loneliness so long and was finally being seen. Ellen knelt beside her, tears streaming. Mrs. Sullivan, you thought they forgot. But look around. Look what you created. Margaret could only look at faces of children who weren't children anymore. Ellen wasn't finished. Mrs. Sullivan, your students told us you're living on a small pension, struggling financially. You spent your own money for 30 years buying supplies for kids who couldn't afford them. Margaret nodded, embarrassed. They needed crayons more than I needed new clothes. That's why we're doing this. Your students started a fund. 2 weeks, $180,000. All for you. Margaret gasped. Shutterfly heard your story, adding $50,000. Walmart's covering your rent 5 years. You'll never worry about money again. Margaret collapsed. Former students rushed, catching her, holding her, surrounding her with love she thought she'd never receive. The studio audience stood, not applauding, crying, witnessing something too sacred for applause. When Margaret composed herself, she stood addressing her students. I thought I was forgotten. Didn't matter. 3 years believing my 30 years meant nothing. She paused, looking at each face. But you remembered. All of you. That means everything I poured into you wasn't wasted. Jennifer stepped forward. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm a social worker because of you. Every child I help because you helped me first. Sophia added, I teach immigrant children because you taught me. Marcus finished. I fight for justice because you showed me what it looks like. Ellen stood back. This wasn't entertainment. This was healing. After cameras stopped, Margaret pulled a wrinkled photo from her purse, her 1997 class. 22 children on carpet, Mrs. Sullivan squeezed beside them. I brought this, she told Jennifer. Been carrying it 3 years, hoping I'd run into one of you. Jennifer took it. All 73 former students huddled around, pointing at younger faces, laughing, remembering. I have 847 of these, Margaret said quietly. Every class, every child, never forgot any of you. And we never forgot you, Marcus said. The episode aired 3 weeks later. Most watched Ellen episode that season. Thank a Teacher went viral, millions sharing stories of life-changing teachers. Margaret moved into a beautiful apartment her students helped choose. Walls covered with 847 photographs. She doesn't feel forgotten anymore. Former students visit regularly. Marcus brings his kids. Sophia collaborates with Margaret on curriculum. David dedicated his PhD to Mrs. Sullivan, who taught me to read when everyone gave up. Every Teacher Appreciation Day, Margaret gets 73 cards. Each says, "You changed my life. I never forgot." Ellen keeps in touch. Birthday flowers with a note. "For the teacher who proved love multiplies." The photograph box isn't hidden anymore. Displayed proudly in Margaret's living room. Testament to 30 years of quiet heroism. Margaret Sullivan taught third grade 30 years. Thought she'd been forgotten. But 73 people proved the best teachers are never forgotten. Just waiting for students to grow up enough to realize what they'd been given. On that stage, before Ellen and millions of viewers, those students finally said what Margaret needed to hear. "We remember. We love you. You changed everything." Within days, the episode went viral. Over 50,000 emails flooded Ellen's show. Teachers who felt forgotten. Students searching for teachers who changed their lives. The movement became something bigger than anyone expected. 3 months later, Margaret stood in her new apartment looking at photos her former students sent. Marcus's twins starting kindergarten. Sophia's award-winning classroom. David's published research. Her phone rang constantly, not with bills, but FaceTime calls from students wanting her to meet their babies, see their homes, hear about their lives. One call moved her deeply. Amy Chen from 2008 called crying. "Mrs. Sullivan, I just became a teacher. My first day is tomorrow. I'm terrified." Margaret smiled. "You love them, Amy, even the difficult ones. Especially the difficult ones. Those are the ones who need you most. Like you loved me. Exactly like I loved me." 6 months later, Ellen invited Margaret back. This time she walked on stage confident. Loved. Seen. "How's life?" Ellen asked. "Beautiful. My students visit every week. I'm not lonely anymore. I'm exactly what I always was, just finally recognized." Ellen pulled out a letter. A teacher from Mississippi wrote, "I saw Mrs. Sullivan's story and cried. I've been teaching 25 years where nobody notices. I was quitting. But if her students remembered after 30 years, maybe mine will too. I'm staying." Margaret wiped her eyes. Teaching is the longest game. You pour everything into children and might not see results for decades, but they're there, growing, multiplying. The audience rose, not for entertainment, but recognition. Ellen had one final surprise. "Margaret, those 847 photographs? We digitized everyone, created a website where former students can find their photo and share their story." The screen showed mssullivanremembered.com, already hundreds of comments. "You saved my life. You were the only adult who believed in me. I became a teacher because of you." Margaret stared, overwhelmed. 847 children, now adults, all saying, "We remember." Today, Margaret Sullivan is 73. She lives comfortably, surrounded by love. The loneliness that nearly destroyed her replaced by overwhelming connection. She knows now what she couldn't know during those 3 years of silence. She was never forgotten. Her students were just growing up, becoming the people she always knew they could be. And when they were ready, they came back. Not with empty thanks, but with proof. Proof that belief multiplies, that love compounds, that great teachers never die because they live on in every life they touch. The cardboard box still sits in Margaret's apartment, but it's not hidden anymore. It's displayed proudly. 847 photographs. 847 reasons teaching matters. 847 pieces of evidence that when you love children, nobody else loves. When you believe in potential nobody else sees, you change the world one third grader at a time. Ellen keeps a framed photo in her dressing room. Margaret surrounded by her 73 students on that stage, all of them holding her, all of them crying, all of them home. Beneath it, a note Ellen wrote, "This is why we do what we do. Not for laughs, for this." The movement that started with Margaret's story continues today. School districts nationwide implemented teacher appreciation programs. States increased retirement benefits. But the biggest change was invisible. Millions of people reached out to their own Mrs. Sullivans. Calls made, letters written, visits scheduled. Teachers who thought they were forgotten discovered they never were. Margaret receives letters weekly from teachers across America. "I saw your story and didn't quit. You reminded me why I started. Thank you for showing us our work matters even when we can't."